Hello, welcome to another Terrain Tuesday. We're back to making some spooky related terrain, and this one's going to be making a chapel, sort of an undead themed chapel. I've seen this first saw this in the Undead Warhammer Undead Army book for 4th edition. It appears in the 5th Vampire Counts book and the 6th edition Vampire Counts book. It's going to be based on that, just with my own twist. I've always liked the look of it, and I thought it'd be a nice centerpiece for creepy related games on the month of Halloween. So let's get crafting. First thing we're going to do is make the actual main sort of structure. We're going to do this out of a 5mm foam core. We need 2 rectangles. These are going to be 2 inches. Let's see here, 2 inches high, and these are going to be 4 inches long. 2 of those, and the 2 end pieces. These are again sort of, first of all, make a rectangle 2 inches high, and then to get the steeple, measure from the center line up 3.5 inches, and then just join that to the end, and then 1 bit on each side. Come in and draw a line that is 3/4 of an inch, and then measure on each side 1.5 inches. Put a line there. Then on your center line, come up to about just below about 2.5 inches. And then just freehand a sort of arch shape. You're going to want to cut this out and put it to one side. Keep it to one side. You'll notice I'm doing multiple passes over the arch. This first one just roughly scores the paper. The second one cuts the top layer of paper. I go in, get some of the foam, go in again, get some of the foam, and it's easier then to almost repeat the process for when you get to the bottom bit of paper. Just go multiple times. Hopefully, we should have. It just pops away fairly easy. Put that to one side. We're going to use this to make the wooden door in a bit. Taking some 1mm thick chipboard, you want to cut a piece that's the same height as the rectangles, but the length needs to be the length of the rectangle, so 4 inches, plus double the thickness of the foam you've used. So in this case it's metric, so I believe it's a centimetre. So yeah, it's a centimetre, so it's 4 inches plus a centimetre. Then when you've done that, mark a centimetre in on either side and a centimetre down the middle, so you find the middle part and do 0.5 centimetre side. Just draw some guidelines, and then it's about 2.5 centimetres high. I've just freehand an arch. You just want to cut this arch out, and you can use that to draw the as a template to draw the other arches. Next up, do something quite similar with the end bits. It's going to be the same height, but the width is going to be like 2mm wider than this to accommodate double thickness of a foam core. And then when you've got that done, come in and sort of half centimetre in, draw a line around the edge, and then what we're going to do is we're going to cut that out like so. So we're going to make the sort of door now. Remember that half cut we had? Get a bit of chipboard that's sort of bigger than it, draw around it, and then just leave a sort of centimetre gap around it. Coming with a tool of some kind, some sort of sculpting, scribing tool, and then come down. I'm just going to do a real heavy bit for the centre. It might even be wise to cut all the way through. Then for the rest, we're just going to come in and do some not as deep scores for the planking of it. 3 on either side, that's good. You might want to go over that a few times, just not as much as this bit here, because that is where the doors are closed. And then you can come in and just add some wood texture on. Now we're going to detail the door. Bit of a 1mm plastic rod and just cut loads of really thin, sort of 1mm thick circles from it. And get some, these are jump rings for jewellery making. These are 4mm. We're going to use these for the door handles. Probably just put these here for now and glue them in, do that off camera. But what we're going to do is come in with some glue and just going to do blobs, because it's going to be studding the door. If you can see on down here. So where those white blobs are, drop in some of your cut bits of plastic rod, and you can see I'm sort of doing an alternating pattern on each plank. Take your foam pieces and we're just going to glue it all together. So you glue on each end. Just gonna glue it all together. What you can do is, like what I'm doing here, is use the chopping mat to get it sort of at right angles with each other, like so. But then just leave this to dry. If you've seen any of my other foam sort of building making, can put pins in if you want, just to hold it together. I'm not going to bother with this one. To pin it, you don't have to leave them in permanently, you can reuse these. I'm using these, it's got big bits on the end. You get it so it's sort of leveled up, lined up, using the mat for this. To put a pin in, you'll have to be all the way through. And one in top, one in the bottom. Do the same for each side. Glue the side panels in place. And glue the front and back frames in place. What it looks like now. Now I'm going to add some detail in. Bit of Halloween. perfect time for getting stuff like this. Gonna use some of these cheap kids skull rings. So they just come in a ring, plastic ring around it. Break apart really easy. But what we're gonna do, if you've got any flashing or anything on it, just trim that off. Come with a pair of scissors and just cut away the ring part of it. So you're left with just the skull. Probably going to want to spend time trying to flatten it a bit. So cut them out, put them under a book somewhere, just to soften them and flatten them out a little bit. There's one made here. You can put this, they're going to go in the recess here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put where I want it, just roughly mark out, because I want to put some glue here. I'm going to be using super glue, so that'll just tell me roughly where I'm going to glue. I'm just going to bung a load of glue here in that area. Put it on, and now to hold it in place, what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to use a clip. Just to really hold that in place so I don't have to hold it, and that will help flatten it down as well. So I'm going to put one in each recess, but I'm also going to put one above the archway here, and then one probably level with these here at the back. Okay, so here they're all glued on. One there, two there, one there, two here. But now we're going to do something with the I'll make a door frame, and I want the door frame to be all skulls. 2 rows of skulls going up here, 2 rows of skulls coming down here. So wow, about 2 years ago, I did a review for Toad King Caskins. Did various products, and one of them was a bag of skulls, and I've still got it. It's still going strong, and I use this a hell of a lot. So what I'm going to do is get some skulls, and I'm just going to glue them on here and here. Just rows like that. I'm not too worried about which way they face really, so like these ones are sort of slightly facing down, and I'm just going to do it with PVA. Come on, PVA, just because this bit will be a nightmare of super glue. Go everywhere. Super glue tends to stick to everything but what I want it to. So another set, another skull here. Bad one. So as you can see, I'm going to be building this up if my exposure works. So I'll crack on with that. I've turned the exposure down so you can have a look at it a bit better. That's it, that's going to make a great door frame. Door underneath. Yeah, feel for how good that looks. Look at the detail. Still got loads of skulls left. Just never ending. So now we're coming on to the roof. We're going to need a bit card that is 15 centimeters long. 15.5 centimeters long. Let me check that. Yeah, 15.5 and 13 centimeters wide. And down the halfway point, you just want to score it, not go all the way through, just to make folding it easier. And that is going to go here, like so. But we need to make another 2 pieces for it, 'cause it's a bit of a grand type. The gable's a bit grand. And then we're going to have to, it's going to be difficult to explain, but then we're going to have to cut down here on it when it's done to flatten out the bottom, but we'll get to that in a minute, preempting what's going on. We're going to glue the first part of the roof in place. Be easier to cut it and trim it, which we'll see in a minute and see why in a minute. To do this, going to add some glue in. Glue around the edges. To pop the roof on. It's going to eyeball where it needs to go. So roughly sort of same either side, same either side. Pop it down, hold it for a while, and once the glue begins to take hold, you can let go. Probably jumping the gun here, want to leave it to dry a bit longer, but need to crack on. I'm going to make a cut now into the end of the roof to make it parallel with the ground. So just going to make it from the corner bit there to parallel with. Hopefully you can sort of see that. Next, take 2 bits of 10mm thick foam, and I made a slight mistake here, but it needs to be 14.5 centimeters wide. So it's going to sit here, and you're going to get this little sort of indent bit here. But I've made mine 8 centimeters tall. You probably would want to make it a bit bigger than that. So what I want to do now is pretty much do the same. So I'm going to offer it up, and see what I've worked out already what I need to do, because it's going to glue sort of over the top, but this again needs to be parallel with the floor, so put a line here, and then to make these 2 bits meet nicely, you need to come up here. One day autofocus will work correctly. Yeah, so come across here, make it parallel, so I'm going to cut down that angle. I want it to offer up nicely here, because you know you've got this sticking up here, so I'm going to need to cut down here. So if it was longer, you'd have more of a tip there. It doesn't matter because it's getting covered again, it just means you've got to fill it in a bit afterwards. So I'm going to do that to this, and then do the same for the next bit. You might want to get a hot wire cutter for this. It seems in my underestimation of the length, I've gone well over. I didn't need to make this cut here, because it fits in. It does mean I've got a bit of a gap here I'd need to fill, but it's no problem. What I'm going to do now is glue it on. So you glue it on, so it's about, you know, 1/2 centimetre overhang either side, like so. One more layer of substructure for the roof before we can do the next part. Take another bit of 5mm foam. This time it's going to be 15.5 long again, but this time 21 centimeters long. Score down the middle again, and this will just get glued over the top like so. And when it's glued in, just gonna again come in and cut these bits off here to level it off. This is the roof now done. You can see it's all parallel to the ground there, but we have these holes here. Just got to decide what to do with these, and so it's a chapel of skull, so I'm thinking of just popping another skull in there. So I'll glue that in. Going to be making the sort of, I don't know, steeple on the roof. Goes in the sort of middle bit here and sticks up. But I need to get the, it's going to be a square, so I need to get the slope of the roof. So I need to get this slope. To do this, I'm going to use a bit of chipboard. I'm just lining up with grid. I've sort of pre-marked, and you can see this, I've pre-marked where the tiles are going to go along, and I want the bottom part of it to come down to the second tile, so I've just made that, and that's sort of 2.25 centimeters roughly, so I can line up my marks at the bottom of the chipboard, and I want it to go to the corner here, and I can just now come in with a pencil and that there will be the triangle that I'll cut out, and it's probably going to be about that high, but I'll deal with that in a minute. So it'll be like a shape like that. I can use that as a template. So got this bit cut out that I'm now going to use as a template to make the top bit. So it's 3 centimeters high. What I'm going to do, and I'm going to draw 4 pieces. Like so, and then on the first piece, come in, draw the triangle background. Needs to be better, needs to be quite accurate, Kev. Get going up. And do the same on the third bit. Like that, and then I'm going to cut this out as one piece, score down the lines here, and cut these out. Got to make the top plinth here now, on top here, and that's just going to be made from a bit of foam core. That's going to be 5.5 by 5.5 centimeters. And I'm just going to glue that to the top there. I'm going to be making the steeple now. I'm going to start off with a template that I've made, which is 5.5 centimeters at the bottom and 6 centimeters at the top, and that will give us our steeple. This will be the base of it, the other side, the underneath. So I've got a square here that's 5.5 and 5.5, and you just put it here, draw around it, pivot it, draw around it, pivot it, draw around it, pivot it one more time, and draw around it. And what I'm going to do is draw in some tabs at the bottom, just freehand. I might not use these, but I might do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to score the lines now, and then cut it out. So here it is, cut out and scored. So you just going to fold the tabs all over and just sort of put it together, and you've got a pyramid. It's got to glue this all together now. Next up, you want to cut out a shield shape that will fit into here. So it's got to be sort of fit into that height. and also be big enough to glue one of those skulls onto. Before you glue it all together, use that to trace round a second one, because you want one front and back. Just going to use this to draw around and cut that out in a minute. To glue it on, just going to use PVA glue. Sort of traced around the skull like we did before, so I know where the glue's got to go. Stick the glue on. You can use super glue if you want. If you're in a hurry, I just find super glue can be a bit brittle. I know, that's the only way I can describe it. So if it has any, you bend it once it's glued, it tends to come apart. Whereas I find PVA quite flexible. So I'm going to use a clip to hold it in place. So before I get to putting all this all together, I want to sort of add a bell to it. So raiding my Bix box, I found this old zombie sprue which has a bell in, so I'm just going to clip that off like so. And what I'm going to do is just glue it onto here, so it goes underneath like so. I'm just going to pierce a hole in using clippers here in the middle. So not a big one, just so I can stick some glue in, put that in, and it will hold it in place. Alright, next up we want to get the sort of steeple up here, and it's going to be held on by sort of columns, if you like. These are about 8mm thick wooden dowels, and they're 4.5 centimeters long. And I'm just going to come in. They're going to be attached about 0.5 centimeter in from the edge. That's coming with plenty of glue. I hate doing this bit because they never level up, so if you know why I get them to stand up straight, do that. I'm going to eyeball it as my usual messy self. This bit will probably be better if you don't have green stuff residue on your fingers like I do. I do multiple projects. So I'm going to stick them on, eyeball them up, get them level, and I'll leave these to dry, hopefully. So next up, the reason these are slightly tall is one, the roof will overhang, so I want it to come down, but I want to add skeletons in, and one skeleton has a spear. I need to give clearance for the skeleton. So on each plinth, I'm just going to glue a skeleton on each column, so elbows, glue on his feet, and glue on his back. So I was going to do one on each corner and glue those in. Four blobs of PVA at the top, and we're just going to come in and put the bell tower on. So it's tiling time. To do this, get a bit of cereal box card that is 6.5 inches wide, and then mark out rows of 3/4 of an inch. And then what you're going to do is, just to help you out later on, come in and draw in guidelines for the tiles, and in each row you want to stagger them. Next, all we're going to do is cut along. Let's do 2 to show you. Like so. And now we're just going to come in with a pair of scissors and cut along these lines. But what you want to do is sort of cut a triangle out of the line, because you want them to be old, chipped, worn tiles. So it's going to come along. Keep doing that. So, but also you can come along and just take bits off here so they're not all the same length, and they're a bit in the middle there. So they look really knackered is the word I'm going to use for this. You don't want them. They're just old weathered tiles. I'm going to do the same for here quickly so I can show you what's what. So just roughly I've put some guide marks on here just so I know what's what. And all you're going to do is come along, PVA along that row here, and then you stick your first one on using those guidelines just to level it up. So, and the next one comes on, and it's going to bit glue along the top, the one you just put on, or glue along there. Put that on. Like so, and now you might want to come along at the end and trim these off, but I'm going to leave them like that. I think I'm going to go to the end. So now I'm going to listen to a podcast or something, chop these up, glue them on here. When it comes to doing around the bell tower, go up to it as much as possible, and then what you're going to have to do is measure a strip that fits in between the end of the roof and the wall of the bell tower and cut that and repeat in. And what I've tried to do is, when it gets to this stage, bend them upwards so they bow upwards. So you've got a bit of a bow in. And now for the actual roof of the bell tower itself, you have to be doing it in pretty much the same way, but you're going to cut a strip that just fits across here, and we're just going to glue that in. Like so. And now for the next bit, it's a bit smaller, so you're going to stagger it up and you glue that in. And what you can do, any offcuts that you made from doing the roof, you can save those and use those here. So I'm just going to put that in. So here's an offcut that I had on the roof. I'm going to put that in so it'll just fit there. And what you want to do is do this all the way up. And then do the opposite side. Once you've got all the way up, I won't show you that. Do the opposite side and allow that to go up dry for an hour, and then see these bits hanging here, just going to come along and you're just going to trim those off with scissors. So here it is, all trimmed up, but now we've got to make some ridge tiles for here and here. So we've got to do these ones first. For this, a bit of cereal box card, inch thick, and then it's going to come down, score down the middle of it, and sort of fold it over. So, and just chop these up into, gonna probably need a few quarter-inch bits, and then some sort of half-inch bits. These are just going to get glued onto here. So I need to get some glue, run it along here, run it along here, and what we want to do is continue with that bow that we got going on here. So as we get nearer the end, we're going to go slightly up diagonally. So just get the staggering going on. So you use a 1/4 inch bit. Put that there. I mean, like so. And on a 1/4 inch bit. Now these are going to want to flip up, so flip up here, so you're going to want to, till it dries, keep pushing them in a bit. For the steeple, it's quite a similar process, but this time I'm doing one that's only 1/2 inch. Cutting them up. We are on the home stretch of construction of the chapel now. I just got to make the 6 columns that are going to go here, here, and here on either side. These just made from a bit of wooden balsa rod. This is like 1 centimeter thick, and a square of 6mm foam that's sort of bigger than the rod. You can see that. And what we're going to do is make 6 of these and glue these onto there and let them dry before we're going to glue them under there. So I'm just going to come in with a blow. Ooh, getting low on glue. Plant that in there, in the centre, and just that should stand up. Leave that to one side. There's one thing about the top here, the bell tower. I've just made a little sort of trapdoor that I'm just going to put up. I don't know if you'll notice it in there, but I just thought, how's that? You know, I'm going to get up there to ring that bell. I'm just going to add a trapdoor up here. This is made from chipboard and then scored in, much like the door it's made earlier. So that's just going to sit there. That's all the detail I'm going to do. I think that'll be enough. It will just tell the story that there's a trapdoor that will ring that bell. I've got to get making the rest of these columns. Now I've just got to glue the support columns in. So it's this case of a massive blob of PVA. And put it here. Put it on. So one at the end here. And we're going to put one, there's a sort of middle bit of the archway there. So one's going to go there underneath, and then one at the end. And repeat on the other side. And so this is what it's looking like now. Probably better look at this angle. So got the pillars in, that up. I'm going to look through my bit spots to find something to put on the top here. So I think it needs something. But now that's pretty much it built. So we're just going to undercoat this. And remember the door from way back, black. I undercoated it in black. When I was undercoating it, some of the columns fell off, so I'm going to leave them off until I've painted it all and glue them back on. So I don't know if you're making this, if you want to just leave these off to last. We'll do the door in a minute. First thing to do is just on the concrete, not the roof tiles, there'll be a different grey. Just on the concrete bits here, and the pillars here. I'm going to paint it a grey. It's going to be this colour. This is a test pot called Storm Cloud. If you've seen me do any sort of grey building before, you know what's coming. The skeletons and the skulls here, I'm actually going to paint a skull colour. So first thing to do is get painting in the grey out. It's going to be what I define as a heavy dry brush. Let's for the door, I'm just coming with a brown. This is called Java beans. That's what I normally use for my browns and terrain. And I'm going to paint over the entire lot. We'll go back over the black on the studs and the handles at the end. I can just paint over it. Just going to let that dry. With sort of the base grey on, I'm going to paint the roof. Now, people get upset when I do this, but I'm going to use some Games Workshop colours for this, just so I've got loads. Dark Reaper, just because I wanted this blue-grey. So kind of, yeah, perfect. I want it to distinguish from grey that I'm using here to make it look like the slate tiles, so I'm going to carry on with that. Dry brushing now, using the usual colour for this, Urban Grey. It's just a nice light grey. Going in left to right motions on this. And I'm going to do the roof in this as well. I'm going to go upwards for this so it picks up just the out bit. Door, just gonna, now it's dry, just gonna come in with some Steel Legion drab. I haven't got too much on my brush. And dry brush going vertically across to pick out that wood grain. Painting skeletons up here in Wraithbone and the ones around the door in Wraithbone, and I just want to add a bit of brown wash to the door. I'm using Devon mud for this. The reason I'm using this is it's almost gone and it's gone really thick and goopy, so I'm going to water it down a bit with some water. So that's it. I'm going to come down to here, sort of you can see that, and go here and sort of come in to an angle like it's all rain and dirt's washed down. Like so. Normally use good washes on projects such as this, but hey ho. So that's going to look like that coming in. And while I'm there, add just streaks and bits in places. I've really aged this roof up. Just random. So here, I've gone too bright with a brush. Dull it down with wash. I'm going to do the same for up here as well. So before I carry on with the painting, I want this to sit on a plinth. If you look at the original inspiration in the Vampire Counts and Undead book, it sits on a plinth. Also sits on a hill. I'm not going to make that, but if you want to make a hill, there's plenty of videos on this channel show you how to do things like the Hobbit hole and the recent mill video I did showing mill. So I'm just going to come in and roughly putting where I want the line, and I'll probably jig it later on, another step going up to it. So yeah, that's roughly where I want it, I think. So I'll just put a rough line in. That's quite a tight plinth, not a lot of room to move around. Like so. And so I'm just going to straighten it up to make sure it's all at right angles. And then cut that out using a hot wire cutter. Just out of interest, this is like inch thick white polystyrene. Now this is as cheap as you get for this type of thing. I'm going to be covering it in mod rock, but if you don't want to do that, you can use pink or blue foam and then texture it with a rock texture, but that's going to be more expensive. It's to be cheap and more hard wearing. It's the base of the plinth kind of made. I've also cut out of 10mm foam just a little strip. I think it's 10.5 centimeters long by an inch. I love the mixed measurement system that I do. That's going to glue here. I'm going to cover the top and this in a layer of chipboard now and engrave a flag pattern on. So I've measured out a grid onto the card. It's about an inch thick, and I'm just going to use a ballpoint pen to score into that grid. Next up, I'm going to come in with a knife and just cut little notches out at the end here and remove the notches on the corner just to give it a bit of a worn look. And now I'm going to come in with some PVA glue and glue it to the base. Okay, so I'm going to mod rock the edges to get rid of that sort of white polystyrene look and protect the polystyrene itself, and it gives it a nice stone texture. So I'm just going to cut the mod rock strip into thin strips, sort of the same thickness as the polystyrene. Soak 3 at a time in water and then just apply them around the edge. Just going to paint all the rest of it now, so I'm going to paint the skeletons and the skulls in I'm using skeleton horde here to bring out the details. I'll then use a sort of brass paint to paint the bell, and I'll paint the weapons in however you see fit. Wood brown, weapons silver, and that's that. Pretty much almost done now, but I do want to do something about this. Give it a little steeple, so I've cut a little square of chipboard which will be attached here. I also want something to go on top of it, like a weather vane type thing, so I've raided the bits box, found some sprue of these sort of skeleton bits I don't need. I'm going to take this spear here, chop it I think to about there, maybe even up to the actual metal hilt. Won't be there. I'm going to attach it to the card, paint it up and glue it on. And this is the chapel complete. You can see I've got the weather vane there. Coming down here. Here's the plinth. I've not glued it to the plinth because I can remove it and I can use this plinth for other things. So if it's got a grid on, I might give it a wash at some point just to really bring out the grid. If it's got an inch grid on, you can use it for RPG games or some sort of plinth, like on some undead guy on a throne there, and you've got a little terrain piece that you can use, so it's multi-purpose. So yeah, I'm not going to attach it. I'm really pleased with that, the way it's come out. You can see the mod rock here has a nice, it's solid, so it protects all your foam and it gives it a nice rock texture anyway on it. Here's how it looks from the front. Door, that's great. Really, really pleased with this. That's the Chapel of Skulls done.